Hello, this is Mo Hasan and
Misty Bright.
we have brought for you a special bonus, a little video, a little explainer video to get you through getting set up so you can do excellent video recording and broadcasting from home or office or no matter where you are.
Without looking like an amateur.
Without looking like an amateur and without spending a bunch of money. And these are a few of the tools that I've got listed for you as the bonus that I offered for you at the summit. So obviously you're going to get a list of all of that and this special video so that you know how to tie it all together and really put on some quality work. All right. So Misty here is going to ask me some questions that we get commonly from entrepreneurs, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right.
So Mo, is the mic on my computer good enough for my recording and my audio?
What a great question. Thank you, Misty. So the question is the mic on my computer good enough for recording? And the answer is no, not even close, not even a little bit. And then I get other questions like, well, I've got a Mac. Is that good? No, not that. What about my iPhone? I have a brand new iPhone. No, that's not good enough either, or your Android device for that matter. None of that is good enough. And the main reason why is because most devices, the microphone ends up being an afterthought. So it's like a super light, super cheap microphone. They just can't do it justice. When you want high quality recording, you need to have a cardioid microphone, C-A-R-D-O-I-D. It's usually going to be something heavier, etc.
What is a cardioid microphone?
That's a good question, and you can Google that. So, thanks for asking that, right? And honestly, you don't really need to know what it is. What's most important is you kind of look for that word. It's one of the signals that you are getting some that's higher quality. But let me give you two specific recommendations right now. What did I do with that microphone? There it is. Right here.
This one?
Perfect. That's the one. When you're recording on your iPhone, this little guy is the Shure, S-H-U-R-E, Shure MV88. And this is what it looks like without the wind guard on it. And thank you, Misty. So Misty's handing me her iPhone here, and it's got a perfect little adapter. It just goes right in there, and then it bends so that if you want to do a selfie video, put it on a tripod or hold it up, and it'll pick up really great audio quality. You can also, of course, take it out, point it the other way, and then point it at the audience and record the audience or put it on a tripod, etc. So there's only one really important thing to know about this Shure microphone, which is it only works if you're in airplane mode.
Why is that?
It's just the way it is. It's the way this microphone is designed is it cannot take the interference. It's so sensitive, it can't take the interference. Plus, the other thing in general, look, when you're live streaming, okay, fine, great. There's other microphones that we have on the list that you can check out as well that are good small lapel microphones, etc. when you're doing live streaming. But when you're doing video recording, it's really important that you're in airplane mode because you get phone calls and text messages, and you don't want them interrupting your video recording. So always use airplane mode. So this microphone works perfect in that particular situation.
And how much is that one?
This little guy runs around $150. I'll put up a link right to the Amazon page so you can see what this goes for right now. And stuff like hardware, you can buy stuff used on eBay. Of course, it's always hit or miss to try and find a good seller, etc. But you can buy some electronics used. I sell a lot of stuff, but I typically buy stuff new. But that doesn't mean anything because all my stuff is in good quality when I sell. So let's move on to another microphone, which is a microphone that you can use when you're stationary. So that little guy is great for travel when you're out and about. But a microphone to use when you're stationary is this guy, which is the Blue Yeti microphone, the Blue Yeti here. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of it. Underneath, you've got a couple of different things. You can plug it into a professional stand, and this is a mini USB and then a headphone output, which is actually used for either headphones or a line out, etc. And this microphone has a few buttons on the back of it. Let me just tighten up the stand here because I moved it around some. It's got a few buttons on the back of it as well as the ability to control the gain. And then underneath of that, I can actually change what the microphone picks up. So right now it's set up to pick up mainly what's in front of it, but I could tell it to pick up bidirectionally. So for instance, if you and I were interviewing, and we were across the table from each other, we could set it up that way. Or we could set it up to pick up ambient noise, or we could set it to pick up voice in a local range, like around a conference table in a circle. It can do all sorts of fun stuff. So great, great microphone, Blue Yeti, and I believe that runs somewhere that same ballpark, $150 or so. And
Okay.
there's a pro edition of this microphone available as well, which is something $250 in that ballpark, which has an XLR output. So if you're going to use it on stage and use the professional input output or use professional recording gear, that would be good. But I think for most people, the Blue Yeti was going to work just fine.
Especially for the purposes of webinars.
Especially for the purposes of webinars.
Okay.
And I use this Blue Yeti to teach classes. And I've used it for years. It works beautifully. I use it for audio recordings. If you happen to sing or play music or do any of that, the Yeti works fantastic for all of it.
Okay, good.
And I mentioned earlier, there's a small Audio Technica mic that I really like as a lapel mic if I'm going to do live streaming and other things that I need to be wired in. So, and that's going to be on your list. All right.
Great. What's next?
What's next?
Lighting?
Lighting. Let's talk about lighting and video together.
Okay.
Okay. So right now, as you can see, we're actually lit up pretty nicely. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the lights. So stay right there.
Okay.
And I'm going to be right back. So you can see what happens when we turn off the lights.
Oh, wow. I can see a huge difference looking at the screen.
Okay. So here we are. Oh, you know what? I even have a backlight on. This is my third light. And, you know, I have a beer too. Why not? Okay, so let's turn off the backlight for a second. And I actually had 3 lights on. And now you can see that we kind of appear a little yellowish in tint.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want you to notice is that the video quality has now gone down.
This is how I feel webinars typically look.
And the reason why is because people are just not using good lighting. Okay?
Right.
And so what will happen is if you don't use good lighting, the camera can't do its work. The lens can't pick up enough light. So that's when you see all of this hazy business like you're seeing right now. Like the video quality has really just gone down quite a bit. Okay. So we use a 3-point lighting system when we're doing a live webinar of some type because it's easy because you're sitting there. You can use a 4-point or a 5-point system, but here's a very easy 3-point system when you're doing a webinar from anywhere.
Okay.
Which is you have 2 lights to the side of you, and I usually recommend using something like this, so it's a diffused light. Okay, so
Similar to the one that you used for the recordings.
similar to the one to the. In fact, these are the same lights. These are the same lights that come from your list because that set comes with 4 lights. You don't have to use all 4 together. So those are the 2 that are sitting in the front. And then behind me, I'm just using a small LED light, which is to create some space, some contrast between the wall and us. Right, so it just gives us a little bit more depth. So now watch what happens when I turn the lights back on. I'll turn on the front lights first this time.
Yes, please.
There we go.
A little better.
And you probably already see
Much
a
better.
difference. And
I
then
can see
when
my
we
makeup again.
turn on the, now you can see the makeup, we're much clearer. And now when we turn on the backlight, voila, we've got the magic of television and the magic of bright lighting. Very, very easy. And you'll notice that the camera now does a much better job focusing on our faces. We're well lit with ambient light, etc. So that's the lighting part. If you're going to use more lights, great, but it's just super important that you don't drown yourself in light. Some people have a tendency to do is they'll just go overboard on brightness.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's lighting. Now
That's
what about
lighting.
video?
Video. So it's sort of like the question you asked earlier about is the little microphone good enough that comes with the laptop, with the iPhone?
I guess the computer video camera's not good enough either.
For most computers, no. For most computers, no. But phones, yes. And this is one thing that's really important. For phones, yes. So, for instance, if you happen to have a newer iPhone, this is a 6S, or if you have a Samsung Galaxy S6, 7, or quite frankly, even the 5s have been really good for a while. All of that can take very good video. And there's a few important things to note. So I'm going to have you hold my beer for just a second.
It's interesting you say that. Now that I think of it, my iPhone is more expensive than my computer.
Yeah, which is, exactly. iPhone is more expensive. And a lot of that has to do with size and portability too. But when it comes to cameras and phones, manufacturers realize that cameras are super important. So on a higher end phone, anything in the Samsung Galaxy, anything iPhone, most of the LGs, etc., all of them are going to have great cameras on them. What's really important is that you take a microfiber lens cloth and you keep your lens clean. If your lens is not clean, the software cannot do its work and take you a nice clean picture. Okay? So that's really, really important. And when you've got good lighting, then everything else is easy peasy.
Okay.
So that's one thing you could do. Now, if you're using, I can't show you the camera itself, so I'll pull it up on the screen here. What I'm using is a webcam that's plugged into my laptop right now, and it's the Logitech C920. It's a full 1080p webcam, and that means it says 1080 lines of resolution on it. And it allows you to take HD like you're seeing here. So when we turn the lights off, the same camera looks really bad. But
Yes.
with these lights on, the same camera now looks amazing, and it's because it's got lighting and it's on a tripod. And that's another big mistake, is don't put your camera, just attach it to your computer or just put it somewhere because it'll pick up the vibrations. Put it on a tripod so it's separate, so your hand gestures and nothing else affects it, and it's good to go. Like with the microphone, I've got this actually on a couple of layers of cushioning, even though it's on hard surfaces as well, to help absorb vibration. So little things like that. And if you need to set up multiple cameras, change around, and tripods are cheap. But definitely for video, don't use the webcam that comes with your laptop. Get a decent Logitech, or there's other ones like Microsoft makes a pretty good one too. And anything in that 1080p series, you really can't go wrong with. But I've listed this one because I like it and I've used it and I've been happy with it.
How much do those run?
These guys, I think now are running in the $75 ballpark. And used, you can get them as low as $50. Sometimes you'll see them still retail at closer to 90, 100. But there's a difference between the C910 and the 920, and I think it's the microphone is better on that. Even though I don't use the microphone on it when I first got it, it was slightly better. And I can't remember if the lens is better. But anyways, go with the C920. It's a little bit newer.
Okay.
Anyways, but you don't need to get a 4K camera unless you already have one. It's just, there's just no reason to produce 4K right now. It's a very high-end video. It just takes up a lot of space.
Okay.
All right. So I think we've covered audio and video with the lighting. And how about setting up the computer? How do you normally set up the computer when you do one of these things? Do you make sure you're plugged in?
I do make sure I'm plugged in so I don't run out of power. It wouldn't be very nice during the middle of a webinar to have to run and grab my cord.
Absolutely.
So I do that. I make sure my notifications are turned off so I don't end up getting little beeps and chimes.
Make sure your notifications turned up. Now here's a really good trick that we use as instructors when we're teaching classes. Is in Windows, and I suppose you could do this on a Mac as well, set yourself up a separate profile, call it trainer, so that when you're in that profile, your computer screen, your tabs, everything, your bookmarks are all set up so that you can broadcast. So it's an easy trick, so that way none of your personal stuff has to be on screen. If you are going to share your screen, especially on a webinar, no one wants to see all your personal tabs open. Please don't leave open like pornography and other stuff. I can't tell you how many webinars I've seen where people actually do stuff like that.
Oh, wow. Pornography?
Or they have like a tab open so you can see their history list.
That would
right?
be interesting.
Yeah, you see all sorts of fun
I
stuff.
think the worst I've seen is email.
Email, yeah, people leave
up
out personal
See your
emails.
personal emails.
Exactly, yeah. Don't leave anything personal. Again, just change profile, switch over to a different profile, and you've solved the problem altogether. The other major trick is most of us, when we're at home, we've got pretty decent internet, but oftentimes when we're at a hotel or something, we may not. So you always want to test your internet. If you're going to be broadcasting or doing a live stream, you can always go to speedtest.net. That's speedtest.net to test your internet access no matter where you are in the world. And the other thing I recommend is if you are at home and you're near a router, always do a wired connection.
And how fast does your connection need to be in order to properly stream video?
Okay, so the question from Misty is how fast does your connection need to be so you can properly stream video? So there's really a couple of things. There's one is how fast does your connection need to be? And second, who else is using it? Okay? Because if you have 5 devices in your house and everyone's streaming Hulu and Netflix and Amazon while you're trying to broadcast your video and you've got a 25 Mbps connection, you're going to be cutting it very close.
Okay.
And you want to test for both upload and download. Okay, remember you're downloading the streams from the users that you're watching and you're uploading yourself. So your audio and video are being uploaded. And a lot of internet companies will give you a very fast download and a very slow upload. So make sure you test both. Either way, when you plug it in, it's going to be way faster than a wireless connection. And wireless is not always reliable. Wireless is hiccups. Wireless does all sorts of stuff. So if you're in a wired connection, especially at home, if you have a home studio or something set up, get a network cable, just get a long network cable. They're super cheap, 10, 15 bucks. And then use that to plug in.
Okay, perfect.
What else? What else do you want to know about webinars and video recordings and live streaming, all that fun stuff?
Going back to video and camera, I've heard that sometimes you want to set it up at a different angle depending on whether you're a man or a woman. Is that
Yeah,
true?
so that's a very good thing about you can set up the camera differently depending on if you're a man or a woman, and differently if you're going to be working together or like this, right? Where we've got the two of us. So Misty happens to sit up very straight, right? And I'm very widgety and I move around and do all of that stuff. So she always appears taller, even though you're 5 or 4 inches shorter than me.
I am.
So, that's just have good posture, all that fun stuff. And that's really good for TV. The other thing is when you are, if you're a woman, it's usually a good idea to be captured from the camera a little bit higher, looking down on you, because it's a little bit more flattering. Okay, it's a little bit more flattering. There was, it's kind of an awful internet thing, but if you need an easy way to remember it, there's this old internet thing called Fat Girl Angle Shot. Okay, and it's an old internet trick that no matter like how much you weigh, if you look up and you take a shot from up here, you always look like you're 20-30% skinnier.
It's like all those selfies you see.
All those selfies, right? And
Okay.
again, I don't know why in the internet world it's called Fat Girl Angle Shot, right? So that's just what they call it, but whatever. But there is truth to looking up, right, and having a camera angle you down a little bit, because what it does is it thins out. Yeah, it thins out your neck, your chin, all that stuff. Exactly. So you're not
Yes, you can see the difference.
And then for men, you actually want to be captured from below, so that actually makes you look more grander, like makes you look of greater stature, etc. So that's an easy trick. Even I'm talking about like, moving it 5 inches lower versus 5 inches higher is enough to capture that. It's very subtle and it works well. And usually what I find is that if I am with a woman, I'm going to err to the side of her. Right? So instead of being 6 inches up, we'll be like 4 inches up, but it's still erring to be in your benefit.
Okay.
And so just kind of balance that out, etc. So these are some easy tricks that you can use when you're broadcasting. Good sound, right? Getting a good microphone, good video, good lighting. And of course you hear that, in our home here, we've got quiet in the background, right? Which is always very, very important. If you're ever recording audio only, a nice little trick is you can actually just take a blanket and like surround yourself in thick blankets, and that creates a sound barrier. And with a mic like the Blue Yeti, you're going to get studio quality sound all day long. So lots of fun stuff that you can do. So we hope you enjoyed this video and learned some new stuff, and we'll use these tricks.
I thought of something else that
Okay,
we could cover though.
not yet. All right, let's go into it. That's why we're here.
Well, the other thing is when you're doing a video, you're only making eye contact with your viewers if you're looking directly at your camera. And it's very tempting. I even find myself doing it now. I want to look down at the screen and see what everyone's seeing to make sure that they're getting good quality. At the same time, now I'm looking at the screen and I'm not making eye contact with you.
That's a very good point. And we see this oftentimes when people are on Skype calls. is what we see is people's faces looking like this, right? It's like, hey, it's great to chat with you guys today. Man, thankfully I'm not bald, right?
Right.
So yeah, you make a really good point, is that you
Yes.
want to make sure that you make eye contact with the camera anytime you're broadcasting. And that is also true when you're on your phone, these little guys, right? When you're taking your photos, make sure you are looking at your camera, front or back, that you're always looking at the camera when you're taking your photos. Because a lot of times I'll see people, they're live streaming, but they're really just looking at themselves, right? And so to the audience, it looks a little weird. So it takes a little bit of practice, but great point,
Yes.
Misty. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're
That's
welcome.
a fantastic trick.
And I had one last question.
Okay.
Do you have any programs or websites that you prefer for webinars? There are so many out there, it's hard to choose one.
Yeah, that's another really good question. So do I have any programs or websites that I like for webinars? I find that on the inexpensive side, like cheapo, Zoom seems to work really, really well. We've had a lot of friends using Zoom for a number of years, and that seems to be just fine. In the corporate world, it is still a go-to meeting, go-to webinar world. And that's what I use oftentimes, like go-to training and those tools.
Skype for
And
business as well.
Skype for business, for internal communications.
Okay,
Because Skype
only
for business
internal.
is only for internal. But regular Skype works well for small group communications. But when you're doing a webinar, usually you're going to want a good tool. You want to make sure that recording is available to you, archiving, all of that. And Zoom and GoToWebinar and GoToMeeting all offer that. And I'm trying to think who else. There's several companies out there that do it. I've tested the Zoho product for webinars. It was okay. It was not bad. But I really do like the GoTo family of products. That seems to be fine.
I know the go-to will allow you to upload handouts and stuff like that to share with your participants.
Yeah.
What about making offers? Do you know which ones are good for making offers during your webinar?
When you say making offers, what do you mean?
If you're actually trying to sell something through your webinar.
If you're trying to sell something through your webinar and you want to have a call to action,
Yes.
I highly suggest like you keep it simple. Like you can just put a link on there and have people click a link to go to whatever page.
Okay.
So make it easy on yourself. You don't need to get super fancy when you're doing something like that. I'd give people a very easy URL that's accessible during the webinar. It's like, whatever your website is, .com/offer one, right? And so it's really easy for people to find, or use a bit.ly or something so you can get a shortened URL. But just put it in a chat window, let people click on it, and take them right into a call to action, right? So once they go to that landing page, then you design your landing pages however you normally would.
Okay, great.
Great question. See, anything else?
Maybe audience participation, such as raising
Audience
hands,
participation.
engaging your audience.
Yeah, if you're doing a live stream, asking people to provide input through the chat, asking people. Now, when you're doing a go-to webinar or go-to training where people actually have the ability to raise their hands in the software, well, that's fantastic. That's really easy.
Yes.
But if you're going to do that, make sure that you take 30 seconds to train your participants on how to actually do that. Because not everyone uses the same software.
No.
So it is important that you take a few seconds, teach them how to do it, and then have them engage. And that works really well.
Yes, some of the programs will actually have a check mark or an X that they can click on to say yes or no. Or they have hands that can be raised if someone has a question, or if you're trying to find out, how many people agree with this or that.
Absolutely. And you could do small rooms for breakouts, etc. So you can get into very advanced webinar stuff. And that's one of the courses that we have at Into Power that's available for our corporate clients, as we teach them how to do webinars, because there's a world of it. I mean, there's a whole experience to create when you're on a webinar, especially for those people that are doing it on an enterprise level with thousands and thousands of staff members that are spread all around the world. Webinars can be a very powerful tool for communication and collaboration. And for those of you that are working in small businesses where you're working with customers, it's a great way for you to engage your customers using the power of video. And if you're going to do video, by golly, please use high quality video and high quality audio. Right? It's such a disservice to your customers for them to see a horrible version of you. Right? What you're doing is amazing. What you're doing for people in the world of health and wellness is awesome, awesome, awesome. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And we are super happy that we can make a contribution to this space. So enjoy the tools. If you have any feedback, etc., please feel free to connect with us. Our information will be on there as well. See if you want to follow us on Twitter or follow us on LinkedIn, etc.
Yes.
Any final words?
Thank you for doing what you're doing and making our world a healthier place.
All right, excellent. See you all soon at the next 7.